Welcome to Osmosis Training. Today we're going to go through some Rhino 3D tutorials. Just going to do something simple today. We're going to make a simple rim for a car. And this is one of people's favorite things to do in Rhino is to make sweeping surfaces and curved surfaces. And a nice car rim is a good one to start with. So what we're going to do is make sure that we've got a new template that is in large objects in inches, and then in our front viewport we're going to bring in an image that will show a cutaway of our rim so that we can create a curve and revolve that curve around to make our rim blank. So we can go to viewport layout and go down to background bitmap, and you can see you got a lot of options here. We want to place a background, so click on place, and there's my cutaway, and this is one I just sort of got from the web, and I'm just going to drag it here in this side viewport or this front viewport and just make it any size for right now. We know where our rim is going to be. We'll say we want an 18-inch rim, so let's just make us a rectangle that is 10 inches wide by 18 inches long. I'm going to move this down, get it close. We're just going to use this to size up our rim background with, and we're pretty close by just looking at this. And you can turn these grid lines off and on by going to View, Grid Options, and just uncheck Show Grid Lines from the Document Properties dialog box. So to place our image the same size as our rectangle, I'm going to go back to my image properties or my background bitmap properties, and this time I'm going to select scale, and it's going to ask me for a first point or reference point. Usually that's going to be the center, somewhere in the center of your image, and then we select an outer point to scale from. I'm going to turn off my snaps here, so, and just bring that in just a little bit. Oops, it was too much. Do this again. There we go. So just for these purposes, just for tutorial purposes, we'll leave that at pretty close. If you wanted to get right on the money, you can use your snaps. Alright, so now I no longer need my rectangle, and I can go in and start drawing out the outline of my cutaway for my rim. And for this I'm going to use a control point curve. I'm going to start here at the top and just start going around adding in my control points. Now in the larger curved sections of this, you can go wider spaces between points, but when it gets into sharp corners, you want to add more points in those areas, and this brings those corners in together and makes those corners a little sharper. So just as a rule of thumb, whenever you're creating these control points, you want to make sure you get plenty of points in the curved corners, and you don't have to do as many points in the straight areas. So in an area like this where it's going to be very curved, I want to put plenty of control points. And we can also come back later and add control points, and we're also going to go in and move some of these control points around after we get them placed and get the control point curve created. So just for now, we want to get them as close as we can. And you go all the way around until you get back to where you started, and it's going to give you a point to click on, and now you have created your control point curve. Now to go in and edit your control points, you go down here to control points on, and then you can go in and start adjusting those control points and get them a little closer to what you wanted. As you can see, when you get two control points closer together, it can form a sharper corner. Like if I wanted to make a sharper corner here, I just bring this control point closer, bring this up to get more of a sweep on that curve. And since this is just a curved surface, you just want to get as close as you can to the original profile. We're not going to be creating this part, so this is just kind of for design purposes. If this was an actual part that you would be putting on a CNC machine, probably the best way to do that would be to bring in your own CAD drawing into Rhino 3D, and you can actually create these curves directly on that CAD drawing. And that way you make sure that you're right on the money on those points and lines. But I'm just going to get as close as I can here for the purposes of this tutorial. Okay, so we're pretty close there. We can go in and turn off our control points. It's by right clicking on that control points on button. And I no longer need to see my background image, so I can go in and turn that off. So click on background image, visible, no. And there's my curve. So now what we're going to do is use a revolve to revolve this curve to create our wheel width. So I'm going to go to Surface, Revolve, turn on my snap, so I'm going to get snap right along this grid axis. Start over here, make sure that you're past any boundary of your curve so that you get all of your curve revolved. So over here I'm past the boundary of where my curve is. Start there, and again make sure I'm past the boundary of where this curve ends, over here somewhere. And then it's asking for revolution angle 360, and there's my rim. So as you can see now in the viewport, I've created a blank for my rim. You can go in and we can do some booleans to make some bullet hole rims. If we wanted to do some circles, extrude those circles and make some holes with our boolean. And there's lots of things we could do with this rim now that we've just got a blank rim here to work with. But so you could use this one single blank rim to create all types of rim designs. So you could save this in a file and then continue to come back to it and make some different designs. And there's also a way where you could go in and leave out all this area here, and we can make some spokes. So for example, instead of sweeping down with our curve down to the center of the rim, we could just come straight over and up, and this will create a sort of a donut rim, and then we can create different spokes and sections for our rim. So check back later and we may add that in as a tutorial in our next section. So thanks, and hope you enjoyed it.